this conversation, very important one, about this clinical trial of a tuberculosis vaccine currently being administered at a site run by Wits University. As I say, our guest this morning is Dr. Fairlie, who is the National Principal Investigator. Dr. Fairlie, thank you so much for your time. We often, particularly in urban settings, can be tempted to think that TB is a problem from long ago, from far away.
Morning, Bongani, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be on the show. So, yes, I guess that's true, but it's actually very much alive and well, unfortunately, and actually is responsible for the second highest number of deaths, second to COVID. It still remains a major issue, particularly in a country like South Africa, where we still have, tremendous amounts of inequity and socioeconomic challenges that people are living in. And unfortunately, in those conditions, that's where TB really thrives. Also, to mention our high HIV burden. Obviously, TB and HIV coexist very closely together. So it still remains a major issue, particularly in South Africa and other sort of low middle income countries.
I thought we could deal with it, though, with antibiotic treatment. Why do we need a vaccine?
We can to some extent, but I think that the impact of the preventative therapy hasn't been quite as successful as we would have liked. So we still need to be thinking about ways of actually further reducing TB. We know that in South Africa alone, about 250,000 people are diagnosed with TB each year. And globally, around 1 million people still lose their lives to TB on an annual basis. So although there is preventative treatment, I think any of us who've ever had to take long courses of treatment will know, that it's not that easy. And so we still need to find an optimized way to actually prevent TB infection and disease.
Compliance, of course, is what has led to things like drug-resistant TB, hey?
Correct. And so if we can prevent the TB disease in the first place, there's no need then for TB treatments and then a much lower risk of actually developing resistance to the TB treatments that we currently have.
Well, talk to me, how significant is this clinical trial? What will it achieve?
So this clinical trial, as I think you may have mentioned, it's enrolling 20,000 people globally. So just to clarify, we're not enrolling that number of people at Wits, but the study, there are about 34 sites in South Africa, 60 sites globally, and include other countries like Kenya, Zambia, Malawi, Mozambique, Vietnam, and Indonesia. And essentially what this study is wanting to do, it's a phase 3 study. There were results that came from a phase 2 study that was sort of finished about 5 years ago or so, which showed that in people who had previously been infected with TB, so maybe just to distinguish infection and disease, so about a quarter of the world's population will have been infected with TB and have what we call latent TB, so it doesn't make people sick, but the kind of TB sort of lies dormant inside their bodies, differentiated from disease, where someone actually becomes ill, gets the symptoms that I think many of us are familiar with: the cough, loss of weight, night sweats, coughing up blood, etc. And so what that study showed is that in people who had latent TB, there was a 50% reduction in the number of new TB, pulmonary TB, so chest TB cases. And so we're really hoping to replicate those results in this particular study, obviously focusing on high burden areas where we know that there is a high percentage of people who've got latent TB. And really hoping for a successful vaccine and certainly one of the most exciting prospects for TB prevention currently.
Dr. Fairlie, how do you respond to the criticism that often people in countries such as ours who have all the situations and scenarios you've described that we have to contend with are often used in trials like this. We become the guinea pigs. When the vaccine is fully developed, we can't afford it.
So I think that is certainly something that is, top of the agenda for both of the funders of the study, Wellcome and Gates MRI, who are committed to this vaccine being available. And it's a long game, Bongani. It's probably, these clinical trials, so recruitment will have 24 months. Then the endpoints of the study are actual TB cases. So probably looking at 6 years before we have results of the study. Then the vaccine gets registered if the results are promising. But certainly the funders are, and as a public health community, we are extremely committed to, if this vaccine is successful, to having it available in South Africa. And I think certainly we wouldn't be doing these trials if we didn't believe that was what was going to happen through conducting the study.
All right.
I mean,
Dr. Lee Fairlie, we are going to have to leave it there. National Principal Investigator for this TB trial in South Africa.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.